Welcome to the Whole Athlete Podcast, where we focus on discussing topics to help you become a fat burner, optimize health, and improve performance in life and sports. Transform the whole you from the inside out with the holistic method. Let's dive in. Here's your host, Debbie Potts.
Hey guys, it's Debbie Potts, the host of the Whole Athlete Podcast, and I'm back today to dive into a little more about what keto is as I'm recording the new year, and people are curious and asking lots of questions. What is keto? What is fat adapted? And what is metabolic flexibility? So part of my weekly Wednesday episode is to talk about health building, and Fridays about performance and longevity. But today I'm going to go into a combination of the two and talk about how you can really improve the whole you from the inside out to improve fat loss and mitochondria health, as well as, of course, how can we improve our performance in our sport, as well as I think we should be focusing on longevity. How can I improve my performance in daily life and my future life? So I found some blogs, as I seem to get a lot of them from different people I follow, and I wanted to share some things that I'm putting together in notes for my own self for putting a blog together and for the podcast. So Robb Wolf, of course, you should probably know who he is. He's one of the big paleo guys in the beginning, and he started a great supplement company for electrolytes that I love, and I just was thinking I need to order those again with good electrolytes, little packets you just put in your water to really work on hydration. And it's called LMNT, Elements. And he has a great blog on drinklmnt.com blogs. And this one's about the ketogenic diet, what you need to know. Also, of course, Mark Sisson's The Daily Apple blog has tons of great information in it too. And who else do I follow? Dr. Jockers, he has a great daily blog. And then, who else? I don't know, I get a lot, but those are some top ones. They're pretty popular. Oh, Ari Whitten, The Energy Blueprint, I really like his blog. And Dr. Mercola, of course, everyone knows him. So if you haven't heard, the ketogenic diet was actually 1920s is when people started to discover the benefit of a ketogenic diet for epilepsy. So they were treating children with epilepsy with a very low-carb diet, trying to produce ketones for the brain health instead of glucose. So as you know, today, people are into ketogenic diet for fat loss because it definitely speeds up fat loss if you have a good digestive system and you don't have trouble breaking down fat and all these other stressors that contribute to insulin resistance are another issue. But of course, ketogenic for people that don't have chronic stressors, hidden internal stressors that we talk about in my FDN program that I coach people on doing functional lab testing to identify different hidden internal stressors, which stands for hormonal imbalances. I is for immune dysfunction, detoxification issues, which are huge for most everybody, and digestion functions, and then the energy systems and the nervous system. And as you might have been listening to my podcast recently, I'm all about mitochondria function because mitochondria are the energy production of our cell, and to create ATP, which is energy to help us burn fuel for energy, we need the mitochondria to be working at optimal level. And so sugar impacts the mitochondria, chronic stress, oxidative stress, all these different things impact the health of our mitochondria. So that's another area I've been kind of going down the rabbit hole, but I think it's really important to look at the mitochondria health. So it's not just doing keto or low carb or carnivore, primal paleo, whatever you want to call it. You're trying to balance your blood sugar out. So the main goal of keto is to heal a lot of issues, health issues. A lot of people have anything with the brain. Ketosis has really shown, nutritional ketosis has shown benefits for helping people with different health issues, as well as cancers, Parkinson's, autism, things like that. Of course, epilepsy is a huge one. But the marketing claims out there are going huge, and really these different claims people have are, a lot of them are true. You'll see on social media, people have lost a ton of weight, and then other people, it doesn't work for them. So N=1, we say every time, and I will focus on bioindividuality when I work with my clients in metabolic typing and using Keto Mojo to balance the blood sugar out, really to become fat-adapted athletes or fat-adapted individuals means what we'll talk about later, metabolic flexibility. And we're trying to teach the body to burn fat as its main fuel source, its main energy. So the ketogenic diet is also nutritional ketosis, or just saying the metabolic state called ketosis. And what it is fueling the brain with ketones at times when we don't have enough glucose. So the body used to do this for, Robb Wolf talks about Paleolithic men, but it was easy for it to do when we didn't have enough food. That's why intermittent fasting is kind of a natural evolution of how to eat, and not snack. But your body should be able to burn fat for fuel and break down fat for fuel and ketones that will fuel the brain when it can't get enough glucose. So we can also make glucose from breaking down protein and gluconeogenesis. So if we need some glucose, we can break down protein, which you don't always want to do because you don't want to lose that muscle. But eating enough fat and protein should help that and make your carbohydrates lower. So everyone's different. Some people function better in ketosis. I'm more in and out of ketosis. I like to have more of a 5-day plan, that 5-2 cyclical keto, that 5 days a week. I'm doing more intermittent fasting, 1 big meal a day. I'm trying to eat more protein and fat because that's more protein works for me. If I take my Capex digestive supplements and I take more Keon aminos because I'm reading more that women as we age, we need 5 grams a day of aminos. So I'm taking that as well because I can't break down all the protein properly, so I'm not getting enough amino acids. So broken down aminos helps with the supplementation for my body. And then ketones really help brain health, focus, clarity, cognition. So that's showing a lot of research why just being in ketosis, people may function better. And as Robb Wolf says in his blog, the ketogenic state boosts his mental game. And that doesn't happen for everybody. So you have to experiment what works for you. And so the cauliflower mac and cheese I made is ready. My timer just went off. So side focus. So going back to these blog posts I'm putting together for you is that Robb Wolf kind of goes on the same beliefs that I think of keto. It's a tool. It's not a religion. And it's something that he is, as myself, not always on keto. And that, to me, he says keto diet. And that word, to me, for someone that's a female that dieted high school, college, after college, until I discovered low carb, kind of the zone diet back then in my 20s, and then got into metabolic efficiency last 15 years. But it's something that makes me feel better, but I can't think of it as a diet. So I always tell people being in ketosis, nutritional ketosis, has to become a way of life and not feel like a diet. You feel energized and happy, and it's not something you have to think about. And perhaps the beginning of people switching from a high-carb diet to a low-carb, high-fat diet, they have these sugar withdrawals, and they have difficulty sticking with this lower carbohydrate plan because I read in Keto for Beginners, different group pages on Facebook, a lot of people are struggling, the first few weeks into following a low-carb keto diet, that they can't stick with it. They have these sugar cravings, and then people tell them have all these fake sugary foods, which if you've read about them, one, sorbitol and erythritol, a lot of those things will cause you to go to the bathroom a little bit more frequently, and not a solid bathroom poop. It's more of a laxative. And also those fake sugars, low carb, keto approved marketing foods, if people read the ingredients, it's not real food. And what I promote in nutritional therapy with my clients is to eat real food, nutrient dense, organic, in season if possible, that balances your blood sugar out. You should be burning fat and be metabolically flexible so you can burn carbs when needed and then switch back to burning fat. To me, that's our goal. And to be thinking you're on a diet, it might feel like that at first, but this becomes a way of life. And if you exercise, it's a little bit easier to add a little more carbohydrates. I just, for example, had grass-fed burger and bacon, and I heated it up in bacon fat that we keep in a bowl or left over from cooking the bacon yesterday. And then I had some zucchini noodles with some butter and sea salt and had that for my 2:00 meal. And I'm going to be done eating for the rest of the day. So automatically I get my 8-hour or less eating window. I automatically start intermittent fasting, just have a snack, something earlier. Mid-morning I had something because I was doing 2 workouts, and I had some nuts and cheese and ate it early enough so I wouldn't be sick swimming at noon, having anything in my stomach. So you have to time when you're eating, when you're an athlete, and know when you need to add some carbs. And we talked about carb timing with Peter Defty, and we'll definitely go into that a little bit more on optimal fat metabolism. But going to Robb Wolf, his article I find interesting because a lot of it I agree with, that he suggests that think of keto diet the same way as experimental state. He says too many people take keto too seriously, and they talk about cheating on keto as if they're married to a macronutrient ratio. Hello, I totally agree with that. I feel sorry for all these people obsessed with keto. It works, and I'm a fan of it, but you can't think of it as a diet and be stuck counting your macronutrients. Do it for the first month, 4 to 6 weeks, but once you become fat adapted, flip the switch, so to speak, to burning fat, you should know how you feel, and you should probably have broken that sugar addiction and your cravings if you followed the plan. And now you're on the other side of the fence. You are fat adapted, you're burning fat as fuel. You won't have cravings. Yes, I like something, it's not really that I crave something sweet, but dessert is more some coconut oil and almond butter and some dark chocolate or some nuts, and I can melt it together and put it in the refrigerator, and voila, you've got your fat fudge. So your cravings should change, your taste buds should change. Your hormones that make you feel full and satiated, ghrelin is that growling hormone, when your hunger hormone, and then leptin hormone is when you feel hungry. And once you're more fat adapted and you have improved the function of your mitochondria, you become more sensitive to these hunger and fullness hormones. And I definitely noticed that too. For years, when I would eat too much at one time or not focus on eating and sitting and relaxing, I would kind of never feel full and feel like, okay, I just ate that. Why am I not full and satisfied? Well, I wasn't eating enough protein. I had to find that out myself last year, actually. And I have to have digestive enzymes and H-cell-betaine to break my food down. And I wrote some blogs you can find on my website, debbiepotts.net, that talks about what we do in nutritional therapy with clients. One of their intake forms is this 329 questions on body organ functions and symptoms. And then they answer 0 to 3, how often does something happen? Then I go look up their answers and correlate that with their symptoms. And it's really fascinating once I get the lab tests back that we do in the FDN practitioner program. I put the nutritional therapy and the FDN program all together with the Keon coach program that I've learned from Ben Greenfield and all the stuff I've done for the last 15 years, and put it all together to what I call the holistic method and really coaching the whole athlete. So we need to work on digestion and nutrient breakdown. So most people, when I do this nutritional assessment questionnaire, a lot of their symptoms indicate they are deficient in hydrochloric acid and their pancreatic enzymes. So we need to supplement their meals with digestive enzymes and HCl betaine. So that's why I like the K-PEX, because it has a great combination of everything to help break down the fat, proteins, and carbs. Helps with the bile flow, and it helps with focus and energy because it has some ketones in there and really good HCl betaine and all sorts of stuff. So it's my favorite go-to supplement for clients. Anyway, so being on a ketogenic diet, we want to call more, I'd rather people say fat adapted or I'm low carb. I just think ketosis, nutritional ketosis is eventually going to be blown out, if it hasn't already, as out of the mass marketing of kind of switching what it really is. And it's about burning fat and ketones and eating low carb, real food to break that down. So I like to think of it that way instead of a diet. And it's something I'm going to start and it's a trend and I'm going to move on to something. No, your goal is to become metabolically flexible and burn fat. And if you can get carbs low enough, depending on activity level, you might need 20 to 50 grams a day. Someone that's more like me, that I exercise depending on the day, sometimes I have 2-3 workouts in one day. Other days I just have one workout for a recovery day. So I can tolerate a little more carbohydrates. And if we go into Dr. Stacy Sims' book about the need for women to have a little bit more carbs depending on their cycle, you might find yourself feel better and have more energy and lose more weight if you have a little more carbohydrates and not fast as long. So that's Dr. Stacy Sims' book, Roar, that we'll dive into more with Dina and Aaron, and I are going to do a podcast, and the Kelsey from Keon, we're going to do a podcast on women and fasting. So ketosis is just how we eat. Fat adapted process. So don't focus on being obsessed with what you're eating when you're eating. That's why I love fasting. Intermittent fasting, eating. I don't have kids, so I'm not going to have a sit-down dinner at 6 o'clock at night. But some of you might have your main meal later in the evening. Ideally, stop eating 3 hours before bedtime to help digestion, speed it up, and I like to have a late lunch, early dinner, so that works better in my schedule. Now, the ketogenic diet is, think of it as that high fat, low carb eating, and that's when you go to about 60% of your calories from fat, 30% protein, 10% or less from carbohydrates. Now, this is when people become too rigid, I think, obsessing about their macros when it's so individualized. So you have to test your blood sugar and ketones with Keto Mojo, and we'll do a webinar with them in February. But what Robb Wolf mentions in his blog, that if you're overly rigid about these macronutrients, it's a great way to botch a ketogenic diet. The way most people need it is to improve your body composition and health. Now, the ratio approach used most effectively for medically supervised ketogenic diet is one that's designed to specifically deal with medical issues as epilepsy. So there's a difference. Nutritional ketosis to work on burning fat, and for me, is fat loss and performance and longevity. And that includes brain health, focus, my memory, clarity, all that stuff is always needed. Now, modified versions of the ketogenic diet can be higher in protein, and a little more carbohydrates. And they tend to be easier, perhaps more nutrient dense, Robb Wolf is saying. So keeping the macronutrients in these ratios, which means carbs, proteins, and fats are your macronutrients, signals your body to burn fat and to make ketones. So everyone's a little different. Your activity level, your stressors are important. Because remember, if you followed me or read my book on Amazon, I have been, until the last 2 years, insulin resistant because of my stressors. My life stress and hidden internal stressors, I'm identifying again with the right lab testing, a combination of labs. It's not just one lab because we don't treat lab results. We collect data, clues to investigation to look at your whole body from the inside out, just like your car engine. We look at it all and then figure out a plan. Now, I was eating low carb way back before it became a thing. I was doing intermittent fasting without knowing it. I fasted workouts. I was doing the fat coffee. I was doing metabolic efficiency training, maffetone training, starting back in 2005. And started in 2009, I was doing all the low carb fueling and nut butters and everything else and coconut oil and whatnot on my training and racing using UCAN, but training I would bring nuts and have a nut butter on a long trail run. Anyways, point is, I still became insulin resistant because of my stressors. So now that I closed my fitness studio after 12 years, that's one big, huge stressor gone. Excuse me, now I'm going to identify gut pathogens, bacteria that might be hiding, as well as the other metabolic assessment lab I just did on myself, and an MRT food sensitivity lab will do, and hormone panel, and putting all this together with leaky gut tests. So we do 5 main labs plus one other I'd like everyone to do is oats organic acid test. So what we do to assess your whole health is take your hormone test, which I've been using Dutch test as a dried urine test, or you can do the biohealth saliva test. And then I've got the metabolic assessment test is a urine test you can do at home. That's a really good one because it gives 3 huge pieces of information to people's health investigation. 1 is oxidative stress. 2, liver congestion. 3 is your protein digestion. So getting those 3 points of data is huge. And the test only costs $100-something. I think that's like $120. So it's so worth just getting that test and a hormone test. Assume everyone has a leaky gut, but I like to see the data to show that I do because I think it motivates people to heal leaky gut program or follow the leaky gut program. And then MRT is a food sensitivity test. It's a blood test, and that will identify 170 foods that you are reactive to. So it will give you a little business card size cheat notes that you can keep in your wallet of foods that you can't eat, the green list foods, and then foods to avoid are the yellow foods and the red foods to really avoid. So even though they're keto, low-carb foods, they could be on your list that you are reactive to. And if you are eating foods that you're sensitive to or reactive to, you are causing stress to your gut wall lining. So that basically leads to leaky gut. And if you have, say, holes in your gut wall lining, things seep out into your bloodstream that are not supposed to seep out and escape, and then they're tagged as enemies. And then you've got these tagged enemies, foreigners invading your body, and your body attacks them. Your immune system creates this attack. So then you have more food sensitivities, and you have inflammation in your body, and this whole list of things happens. So it's really important to get the lab testing. Also, I recommend DNA Fit and Keto Mojo to test your blood sugar. So here's a list from Robb Wolf's site, kind of goes with what I say. Reducing carb intake reduces blood sugar levels. Less blood sugar means your pancreas releases less insulin, the hormones responsible for storing blood sugar as fat or glycogen. Low insulin signals your liver to beta-oxidize. So beta oxidation is the word for fat metabolism, and that will produce ketones. So the goal is to get you running on fat for fuel, and the ketones are produced from fat instead of running on sugar, glucose, and carbs, right? So it makes it simple to think of it that way. We want to be fat burners, not sugar burners. So fasting is a great way to get the ketones, and it's a similar metabolic effect. And that's why Dr. McCullough, I did his program last year, his book, Keto Fast. His book has a great information on just kind of what I do automatically is 5 days a week, intermittent fasting, eat a little bit more on the weekends, maybe a little more carbs. I shouldn't have many this time of year because I'm not doing my long 3-5 hour bike rides, and it's more lower carbs on the weekend, but I might have 2 meals a day typically instead of 1 on Saturdays. So keto is basically paleo if you're following the real way. Now, dirty keto, I said, is a big trend, and it's driving me crazy because it's a bunch of crap that's overloading your liver, causing liver congestion. Not just right away you lose weight, but over time you're going to have liver detoxification issues. So keto is paleo without the healthy carbs. So you're really doing what I say is eat real food to balance your blood sugar. And a lot of people are doing keto carnivore, and I feel better myself. You can look at your blood type. You can look at, Chinese medicine. They always tell me to eat more meat. I'm type O blood, so that means I do better on more protein. Look at your genetic reports on DNA Fit, and you'll find out what you need as well or not eat. And look, other gut biome tests and MRT tests we do. But having nuts, leafy vegetables, small portion of berries, and dairy if tolerated. Most people can't tolerate dairy or gluten and grains. I have people cut out berries and fruit in the beginning, maybe add some berries in once they're fat adapted. But when you're just in the process of becoming a fat adapted athlete, take out fruit. And especially as you get older, I just read this too. I've had this problem myself for years. I can't tolerate fruit, especially by itself, but women cannot tolerate fructose, and your muscles don't use fructose as well. It has to go through your liver. So another reason not to depend on fruit. So as you get older, women, mostly menopausal, can't deal with fructose. So avoid the high carb foods like rice, sweet potatoes, grains, honey, unless you're doing more intense workouts that you might need a little more carbohydrates. That's when you can add a little sweet potatoes. Maybe you have some honey. I don't really do honey. I can't do sugars, but grains I avoid. Rice, I don't really like. I eat it way too much in college, so I don't ever want rice again. Say with pasta, I never want pasta again. And keto has been popular fat loss diet, but ketosis has other health benefits. So Robb Wolf wrote the PALEO solution years ago, and now his recent book was called Wired to Eat, and he talks about a moderate to high protein, carb restricted, and appropriate fat approach. You've got Dr. McCullough's book, Mark Sisson's book, and we've got Peter Defty, who I podcast with on my show a lot, talking about optimal fat metabolism. We'll go into that a little more next time. But the low-carb diets trigger unique hormonal changes that prevent overeating. And that's what I was talking about, leptin and ghrelin. And then the ketones, the unique therapeutic benefits are really important for the brain health, especially myself when I feel like I have brain damage, memory issues, and I can never remember much anymore. So I'm messed up probably over time. So that's all. I'm going to end today with just that list, and then I will go get my cauliflower mac and cheese out of the oven because it's probably burning right now. But it's a great recipe from Perfect Keto that I put on my Pinterest board, low carb athlete. I know a lot of people can't do dairy, and I wonder once I get my MRT test back if I cannot do dairy, I'll have problems because I love heavy cream in my coffee and I love cheese. So I buy the organic cheese and heavy cream and some cayenne pepper, salt and pepper, and you melt that all together in a pot on the stove with heavy cream and cream cheese and mixture of shredded cheeses. Melt that all together with those spices, seasoning, and then you put the steamed cauliflower crumbles in there. You put that on the oven, mix it all together. Then you put in the oven for 25 minutes and then put a little bit of cheese on top. Delicious. So I've been I have that like wintertime. It's kind of nice to make on the weekends. And then Butcher Box. I got Neil, my husband, for Christmas, and I love it because we have all these grass-fed burgers in our freezer ready to go, and bacon and steak. So he just made a bunch of that on the weekend so we can have it for lunch or for weekday meals, and you can just heat it back up on the oven, and the bacon fat that's left over we keep in a bowl, and voila, there's your filling meal. So enjoy. I'm going to come back to you on the next episode about metabolic flexibility. So stay tuned for next week's episode on how you become fat adapted and what is metabolic flexibility. All right, enjoy.
Thanks for listening to the Whole Athlete Podcast. If you have any questions, feedback, or topic suggestions, let us know on Facebook or at wholeathletepodcast.com. You can help us continue and grow by leaving a review on iTunes. Thanks again, and see you next time.